The Zelda series is full of little details for the player to pick up on when they connect one game to another. This can range from the return of a villain, to implied historical events, to foreshadowing a game that hasn't even been released yet. So welcome to a video detailing many of these connections in Twilight Princess. These are segments from my full playthrough with a few small corrections. If you're interested in watching the whole adventure, it's full of information like this, and you'll find that linked at the end of the video. Anyway, let's start with the Zoro royal family lineage. Queen Rutella is mother to Prince Rallis, and possibly to Princess Ruto, who does not appear in this tale. Beyond having similar names and the same bloodline, Prince Rallis wears a pendant resembling the Zora sapphire to represent his lineage. The Zora sapphire was passed down the royal family, given from Queen Rutella to Princess Ruto to one day give to the man she will marry. Along with Ruto, it's unclear where the Zora sapphire is now. As for Rutella's husband, King Zora appeared in Ocarina of Time. We heard he was an engineer who created the Zora tunic. As a side note, though he goes by King Zora, his name is Zora de Bon XVI, which is referenced in Breath of the Wild. With the full picture, Zora armor already existed when the Hero of Time met King Zora, and Zora are just young adults at the age of 100. Meaning Prince Rallis would have been born in the last century, and King Zora passed away shortly after he was conceived. This places Twilight Princess about a century after Ocarina of Time. At the peak of the Arbiter's grounds, two histories intertwine, the Gerudo and the Zora. Twilight Princess is a sequel to Majora's Mask, answering the question of what became of Ganondorf after Link and Zelda warned the king of his intentions. This made it so Ganondorf could never enter the Sacred Realm and steal the Triforce. Ocarina of Time is about Ganondorf's rise to power, so this would have been the first time he attempted to conquer anything. For his crimes, he was arrested, put on trial, and sentenced to death. But once execution day came, they learned of the curse that made Ganon immortal. It's the Sage of Water that Ganondorf slayed. The sages appear as spirits wearing masks, their true physical forms concealed. It's hard to know if they literally looked like this, or if these are their spirits given form. No other sages in any reality of Hyrule have ever looked this way, always being gifted members of different species. So, who was the Sage of Water? It's possible Ruto is the fallen sage, and this is why she isn't present in the Zora royal family despite how old Zora lived to be. But we can't know that for sure, and these could just be different sages. Ruto never had reason to awaken as a sage because Ganondorf never took over Hyrule in this split history. So this might actually be how King Zora met his end. Ganondorf's execution would have been carried out relatively soon after his defeat. Ruto would have still been a child at the time, and King Zora would have been the Sage of Water instead. I've never seen this said anywhere, so there may be evidence to contradict this I'm not considering. But the point is, Rutella mentions her husband's death, he is King Zora, and we see the Sage of Water die. As for the Gerudo, what Gerudo? Did you notice there wasn't a single one anywhere in Hyrule? They're completely absent. I found this baffling, and so did a lot of other people, which is why the Gerudo War is a popular fan theory. I want to preface this by saying there is no direct mention of a Gerudo War in any official story, but their silence is deafening, and it's bizarre to see all of this evidence of them once existing, but Ganondorf is the only one we see at all. In my personal opinion, the only plausible half Gerudo is Telma, so in a best case scenario, they're incredibly few in number, and in worst, they're not here at all. Besides the great disappearance, here's the facts. In Ocarina of Time, the Gerudo are overwhelmingly loyal to their King Ganondorf up until he takes over and reveals just how maniacal he is. Since Link and Zelda used time travel to undo his rule, his rise to power never happened. The king put him under arrest instead. It's likely that a great battle took place over this. The Ganon I know would never go down without a good fight. There's always some loonies who don't buy into overwhelmingly proven scandals involving the people in power they agree with. Being wrong is hard. Ganondorf never actually took over to reveal his true intentions. There's always a split in situations like this. For example, Koome and Kotake would stay with their king no matter what. We saw that even the worst timeline wasn't enough to sway their loyalty. Certainly, once the battle was decided, any Gerudo loyal to Ganondorf would pay for their crimes, be made an example of, or be driven away from Hyrule to avoid persecution. This also wouldn't be the first time the royals sent away a whole race of people who lost a war to them. Just ask Midna. Twilight Princess is the first time we see a post-Ganondorf Hyrule, so it's possible we're living in the fallout from that. The sequel to Twilight Princess is Four Swords Adventures, which features a scant few Gerudo. According to Zelda Encyclopedia, the Gerudo were driven out of Hyrule altogether around the time of Ganondorf's failure and had to find a new home in the Borderlands, a place called the Desert of Doubt. In the Japanese text, this is stated to be the Desert of Mystery from A Link to the Past. If this was a great war, I doubt they'll ever say much about it because we're getting into the territory of xenophobia and race wars. It would make the royal family the bad guys if they purged an entire race from their land simply because of a few bad apples. Something I'm sure the writers don't want to do to characters like Zelda or the King. It's probably just something best left to interpretation. Whatever happened, there's no Gerudo left in Hyrule, their land and buildings are abandoned, and no one seems to care or even talk about it. Even if they did go quietly, it's pretty effed up, whatever it was. The Hylian map of this place calls it the Great Desert, not the Gerudo Desert. So it's possible some Hylians don't recognize this place as even belonging to the Gerudo any longer. They've been erased. This is the kind of location that as I explored it more and more, it made me go, what the hell is this place? It has paintings of Queen Rutella, the Sacred Grove, Orden Ranch, a place in the sky, and even the Arbiter's grounds. Then there's that portrait of the man that looks like Rauru, depicting him clearly as a great man. The paintings were hard to make out in the original release, so it was only just made clear in this version that they depict these people. The manga states that this was Ashay's family house, but they abandoned it. They learned of the Yeti moving in and they were fine with it, after learning that they weren't a threat. But again, the manga's great, but no one ever said it was canon to the game. What's certain is that the mansion's been abandoned for some time, so whoever it belonged to is long gone. I personally think this was Rauru's family house. Despite how little we personally see of him in any game, he's one of the greatest men who ever lived. He's the Sage of Light and was capable of entering the Sacred Realm at will. In this timeline, he used his powers to hide the Triforce in another dimension, preventing it from ever being stolen. It was likely Rauru who was the great hero to get rid of Ganondorf, many people unaware of Link's deeds in that other timeline. If my interpretation of the sages being those we see in Ocarina of Time just hidden behind masks in spiritual form, Rauru would have been the one to carry out the execution, assuming that he was still alive however long it took for them to capture Ganondorf. Even if only some of those accolades are true, the king would have made him fabulously wealthy and celebrated. He clearly enjoyed a nice retirement. There's also concept art that shows Rauru was planned to appear as the Sage of Light in the execution scene, and they chose to turn him into the spiritual design later. It isn't fair to say that that's canon, necessarily, it just shows that it was thought about when crafting the story. What's bizarre about this place is all the armor and the functional weaponry and cannons. It makes me wonder if this was a war fort that got converted into a mansion later. Depending on the source, this man is known as either the hero's spirit or the hero's shade. He regrets that he was unable to pass on his life lessons and that he was not remembered as a hero. This skeleton was once the hero of time. This hero is his descendant, seen by them both having the otherwise unique power to turn into a wolf when others would become spirits. The hero of time left the reality in which he was known as the hero of time, and the only adventure he went on in this reality was Majora's Mask, taking place in yet another alternate world. No one in Hyrule knew that he saved the world twice, and he died an inconsequential death. According to Fado in Ocarina of Time, those who die in the Lost Woods become Stalfos, so he just died in the forest one day to some unknown death. It's theorized that the Hero of Time ended up marrying Malon and they had children. This Link is a descendant working on a ranch with a horse that resembles Epona and canonically has the same name. I don't think it's fair to say that this is the same Epona, even if she does have the same name, because horses don't have that long of a lifespan. Some like to think that the Hero of Time and Zelda were in love, and that they ended up becoming a couple in the end. I don't personally believe in this. There's that one line where it's implied that Link and Zelda might have some kind of familial connection, and if we talk about the Zelda that Link got to know in the alternate timeline, things between them seem kind of poisoned, honestly. She regrets ever meeting him because he missed out on his childhood, all because she involved him in this war. So I think Malon as a potential love interest is very plausible and matches up a lot with this Link living on a ranch. Tragically, the Hero of Time went on his long journey to Termina to look for Navi, his beloved friend whom he lost contact with after returning to the past. The Hero Shade doesn't have a fairy with him. It's likely that he died without ever finding her. The Fused Shadow may have been created by none other than Majora. For those unfamiliar, Majora is an ancient, destructive magician. They excelled at creating magical artifacts, yet are entirely depraved and insane. Their greatest creation, Majora's Mask, nearly brought about the apocalypse more than once. The Fused Shadow is cracked over one eye, but the one intact is unmistakably Majora's eye. Zant scoffs at it compared to Ganon's power and chooses not to make use of his half of the device, so this might be a lesser creation. Majora was from an ancient tribe that used magical masks and hexing rituals, but it brought great destruction and had to be sealed away to prevent misuse. Sound familiar? Oh, absolutely. It's possible that Majora's tribe were the interlopers, or that they were the Terminian counterparts of the interlopers. Majora's origin is unknown, but both masks existed in Hyrule and not Termina, and Zelda Encyclopedia tells us the interlopers were Hylian. Granted, I don't put a lot of stock in this book compared to the content of the games. I've always found it particularly frustrating how this book is completely contradictory to existing lore when it comes to Termina specifically. Within the same book, they call it a manifestation of Skull Kid's imagination, but then also call it a parallel world. And at other times, it's been called a neighboring land or a byproduct of the goddesses creating Hyrule, and there's many alternate worlds like it. We don't know. Going back to the Fused Shadow, there's clearly some kind of a connection. A mask that possesses Majora's signature. Dark magic. Ancient tribes. The ancient stone tower temple in Termina makes a mockery of the Triforce and rejects the goddesses, while housing a shrine to Majora. We've seen Hyrule prior to the invasion of the interlopers, and in none of those appearances are there any dead ringers for the Twilight ancestors living in those times. They may have hailed from another land entirely.